How you doing, good people? This is the 8-Bit Animal. Okay, so I'm hoping you guys have been watching and following along, because this kind of relates back to the very first video. So on day one, when I talked about the Sega Genesis, I mentioned how pretty much the first 18 months of the Sega Genesis were pretty much either sequels to Master System titles or a slew of arcade ports, because pretty much that's what the Sega Genesis was banking on, their ability to bring arcade quality ports of these titles home. One such title is today's game. It's a very early release of it's a very early Genesis release. It's based on a 1988 arcade title from let me see if I can pronounce this correctly. I'm not even gonna bother pronouncing it. I'll just type it in the description. But it's a pretty well known amongst arcade rats at that time. It's well known. But it was an early Genesis title. It was actually pretty close in graphical quality to the arcade version of the game, but sound-wise, not so much. And I mean, it wasn't the best game, but for a quick 30-minute jaunt, it was pretty fun. And it's a great stress reliever if you just want to shoot something. Today's game, Dynamite Duke. So, Dynamite Duke is your standard megalomaniac, wants to take over the world, send in a super soldier type of game. Duke is equipped with a cybernetic arm and a machine gun. So, he's dropped into this enemy territory and he's fighting these enemies. And basically the way the game is set up, gameplay wise, you're set up behind Duke's torso. So you never see Duke's legs unless in close quarter combat, but I'll get to that in a sec. But you're behind Duke, and one interesting thing about this game graphically is that Duke's chest is hollow. So you can see through his chest to see what's going on around him. But you're moving back and forth. You control Duke as he moves back and forth, or his crosshair, and you aim that crosshair at enemies, shoot at enemies if they get, and pick up power-ups, things like that. Now, if an enemy gets close enough, you can punch them or kick them depending on what button you press. And he's also equipped with a special attack that'll flatten everything on the screen or do pretty significant damage to boss characters. The bosses are all pretty big. They will get up in your face, a lot of them, and you'll have to fight them hand to hand. And Dynamite Duke, like I said, it's a pretty good stress reliever. It's not the best game in the world. If you haven't played the Genesis, if you haven't played this game, or you're not familiar with the arcade title, but you're familiar with the NES, another title that it will remind you of is Cabal. More notably, actually more closely, it resembles the Punisher, or the Punisher resembles it, because Dynamite Duke came before that. It's an okay title. Like I said, it's a pretty accurate arcade port to a title that flew under the radar for a lot of gamers because it came out in 1988, and a lot of gamers with short memories don't really remember arcade titles that came out in the late 80s unless it was like Ninja Turtles or the X-Men arcade title, which I think came out around 89 or 90, something like that, or Final Fight, stuff like that. That's what we remember. We don't remember, a lot of people don't remember titles like Dynamite Duke, and for whatever reason, that's a bit of a shame. You can find a copy of Dynamite Duke probably dirt cheap, because I don't see a lot of people that are seriously hunting for a copy of Dynamite Duke. So you can find that pretty cheap without much issue, and for a quick 30-minute jaunt, you can't beat it. This has been the 8-Bit Animal, and I will catch you beautiful people tomorrow.